Yeah, I've seen it somewhere.
We still appreciate it, for what it is, but I wanted to see it too, so. Yes, it is a difficult form. So, so I just want to say that most of these, it would be hard to brush them out too much because most of these don't have that much oil pastel on them yet.
Well, you said start light.
I know, but it's time. We don't have a huge amount of time to get on there. But I'm just saying, just looking at them, saying that if you had more materials on there, then you could brush it out. And if you're on regular drawing paper, you're not going to be doing much brushing. Because your regular drawing paper is not going to maneuver it as much. And then the next question would be, just with all of yours, where is your focus? And if your focus is the teacup or inside the teacup or edge of the spoon or something, then you have to degrade some of your colors, because this might be kind of good, because then we'll continue going. Degrade some of your colors so that you can get what you want to come forward. So I'll just say, for example, and this is not a good bad thing again. I always like to be clear about that. So, I'm not saying it's all about the whole inside, because a picture plane isn't, oh, no, it's not going to sit. It's not ever all about one piece. But if you want to have some of this more defined, this has to become less bright. How do you make something less bright? Use the complementary. And it's not a literal thing, by the way. Complementary goes all the way around the color wheel in every single stage. It's not just because it's orange that you put green in there. You might put something greenish or something in the family to dull it down to get that to come forward. If you want this to come forward, you have to do something to it. So what could you do to it? Well, more matte. If you haven't used matte medium, yeah, maybe a little lighter, to come forward. Because this is all the same. This is not. So we want to push and pull, the space. This would be a great candidate. I don't know quite what this is on. I think you said watercolor paper.
That's watercolor paper.
Yeah. This would be a great candidate for the next round to put some bright yellows and stuff underneath it and scratch it out. Or put white underneath it to scratch it out. So let me just show you. That's why this is so cool. I didn't realize this was going to be so much fun having people work along. It is. It's neat because we can kind of look at this. See, if you had, ignore that orange spot. If you had yellow or white underneath, you could recapture some of the light from underneath. And if you had the white smashed on, because white is, it's waxy, so it's going to resist staining, because that's what happens, the paper gets stained. And when the paper gets stained, you can't retrieve your whites anymore. But if you smash the white on there, or if you put the yellow on first, then put another color on top, you might be able to scratch it out again off of there. And watercolor paper is notorious for being able to lift and pull off type of thing. Good area for matte medium, just to define the shape of the shadow, inside of there. And make sure stripes go behind things, so they don't go behind things. See, that goes underneath beautifully. But if it doesn't go behind, we won't quite believe it. And the stripes here are a different color than here. So they really are. That's not the same color here and here. I oftentimes go to the paint store not to buy paint, but to steal all those lovely paint chips. I mean, they're hoarding them, and I was like, oh, I got a few of these. But I'll bring them to classes and say, okay, here's pink. Here's all the pinks. Here's the variation of this one pink. Lighter, darker, bluer, cooler, warmer, deeper, So what's the recipe for that one versus that one? What's the recipe for that versus that? It's not the same. If you have these limited sets, it's really hard to get all those ranges. It really is hard to find all those colors, But, just to kind of push at it. And very light, And yeah, this is drawing paper. So, none of these are right or wrong. It's just different ways of working with it. But like I say, just to point out, if you want this to work a little bit more the way I'm working, then you got to cross the lines. Because when you put lines next to each other, they don't blend. They just look like lines. You got to just cross them. So if they go that way, they would go that way, they would go that way. Then they start to mix, and then you don't have lines anymore. You have areas, So, and if you contour, you got to tell me where the contour is going to and from. Because, like, for example, this contour has got its own shape. It's become kind of a petal. This contour is kind of telling us how round that is. This contour is telling us how round that is, you know? So when you do a contour, you want it to describe and bend the form, you know, to create mass, you know, and shape. Look at the amount of differences in that pink, too, all the way down the line. And yeah, this is what I was seeing a lot of, too, is this lovely application of this. I love how you guys did that. That should be a lesson to me. How to do that. Just how to kind of suggest that a little bit. But again, you want this to go behind. You know what? You want this to come in front. So this is going to have to get darker.
Yeah.
That's going to have to get deeper, duller. Get rid of it. Drop it behind so this can elevate to the front. You know, a little rich, but that could be interesting. Depends on what this does. Because you want the saucer. I would say, what are you touching first? If you were there and you're going to touch this, you would touch this edge first. So you want to feel like you can touch that edge first, not that or this. You know, so you have to kind of pull
I have
that
a question
space.
on that. If you lose the white on the edge of that lip of the sauce, of the teacup, can you ever get that lightness back?
That's what I did with mine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I put the matte medium on there and I went, whoa, it's back.
Okay.
Yeah, you can go right on top of it and bring it back again, you know. Definitely bring it back. Oh, I love this handle. Wow. That's just, I feel like I could really grab it. And yeah, you got a little washout there. Another place for matte medium, you know. And again, make sure these stripes go underneath. So maybe you want to bring your cup over these stripes by putting a little matte medium on there and bring them on top of it. That would solve your problem with trying to meet those edges. You know, sometimes you can't meet an edge. Because a lot of times I'll do that, particularly if I do the figure, when I'm developing muscles, you know. I'll draw a muscle, and then I'll draw another muscle, and then I'll draw the outside. Doesn't make any sense to do the outside if you want things to kind of go behind and in front. Behind and in front, you know. So, and of course, the one on the end is all about the stripes. Isn't that fabulous? You know? I mean, that's pretty exciting of a space. I love stripes. They're very, to me, they're very reminiscent of, not literally, of the Dutch masters with the checkered floors. They're a way of orchestrating and organizing space, and they're a way of working perspective. So I use them a lot, because they really do. This one's kind of flipping the cup up a little bit, because the perspective isn't quite right, because your perspective is kind of the same all the way down, which would be a wall. If it was in space, they would be wider at the bottom, smaller at the top. But because of how it's done, it looks fabulous just that way, you know, because it's got a lot of attitude. So, but I think that's interesting. So now I can go back to this and kind of poke it, and maybe you want to poke a little bit further. Go a little bit further with these and see if you can push them, or